Hi everyone, welcome to my podcast. My name is Corrina and my podcast is called the Equestrian, no it's not, it's called the Knitting Equestrian Nomad. Knitting and equestrian or horsemanship are the things that I like to do most in my spare time, so I'd like to share parts of um, my projects and my journey in horsemanship with you. So first of all, a little bit about myself. I live in Western Washington State with my partner, our two kitties, and my two horses. I am recording on Sunday, July 24th. This episode will probably release tomorrow. This is episode 9, so welcome. Welcome, everyone. And if you're new, I'm glad you're here, and I hope you find something useful and maybe inspiring from some of the things that inspire me, or maybe just a little bits and stuff that I do around here. And if you're a returning viewer, welcome back and thank you for continuing to watch. I appreciate that. So as is obvious from my title, this podcast is about knitting and about horsemanship, but I also garden and do some cooking as well. Plus, of course, there's always life stuff going on. My horsemanship journey is about my two horses, Odin and Bragi, the Mustangs. They are Mustangs that I adopted from the Bureau of Land Management Wild Horse Adoption Program, and I have included a link to that program in the description box. I recorded last weekend, so I can talk about what I did this last week, and the weather, which is always one of my favorite subjects. The weather has been summery for at least a couple weeks now. We had a very long winter and very late spring, so we didn't actually start to get summer until about the second week of, or maybe first week of July. July 5th, which seems kind of normal for here. It's getting hot, so I've already been out and about doing some knitting, because that's how I usually start my day, whether it's a weekday or the weekend. And I messed around with the horses for a bit and also did some gardening. So today's episode specifically is about getting hay for the winter, what's on the needles, a new cast on, yay, actually 2 new cast ons, and new yarn. So my goal for this year has been to knit down my stash, but I have a couple excuses. So last week I bought new yarn too, because I was on vacation, and that is the one time that I allow myself to buy yarn, is to go visit local yarn stores. So I have another excuse, and that is I started a knit along, and of course I need, well, I didn't start a knit along, I participated in a knit along. So of course I need new yarn for that, right? Obviously. So anyway, let me see what else. So I've got some gardening tidbits today and maybe some life stuff if I can think of anything interesting. There's been a lot of changes going on at work, so I'll talk about that a little bit. I have worked at my job for 17 years now and have seen lots of changes, of course, over the years, but there just seems to be a lot of changes in kind of the management level right now, which is a little bit unsettling, but we find a path forward, and that's what we're going to do. So knitting. Usually when I start my podcast, I am wearing a knitted item, but it's hot today, so I'm wearing a kind of a raggedy, thinning old t-shirt that probably has some dirt on it from gardening or messing around with the horses, but it seemed appropriate for today, so that is what I'm wearing. Talking about what is on the needles. Last week I showed a raglan sweater that I had finished out of DK weight yarn. It was a self-striping yarn. It's been way too hot to wear that for anything except for the episode last week. So, and then I cast on a summery top called Adeline by Barocco, and I've made quite a bit of progress on that. So let me show you that here. I've got two kitties in this room with me too, so I have to keep everything secured because they love to eat my yarn. So I'd show you my knitting bag. It's not very interesting. It's just kind of an ordinary canvas grocery bag. Let me see, where did this one? Oh, this is City of Thousand Oaks. So at some point in my career, I worked down in that part of California, Southern California. So, and I got this great canvas grocery bag that I now use as a knitting bag. So here is all the progress that I have made. So this is the back. So I didn't have very much done last week, and these markers on either side here are, this is where I start measuring for the sleeves. So this is the body, and then the sleeves are supposed to be 8 inches from this marker. The needles are my grandmother's needle. They're stainless steel. They're long. I usually knit with circular needles, but I saw these and I thought I would give them a try. They are long and they're a bit heavy because they are stainless steel, so I've gotten used to them. I found out that you really need these stoppers, and these were also my grandmother's. They're rubber and probably getting a little dried out, but they're still working just fine because these needles are a little slippery and yarn likes to slide off, especially this yarn. This is a Japanese brand yarn. Normally Barocco patterns like you to knit with their Barocco yarn, but I had this yarn that I wanted to knit with. So this is, here's the tag, so it's Noro, the World of Nature, made in Japan, and it is made out of viscose, which I think is a wood fiber. It's also made from cotton, so it's 41% viscose, 35% cotton, 12% silk, and 12% wool. So it's very soft. So I'm looking forward to finishing this project and being able to wear it this summer. It's a lot of stockinette. This is the back. It's knit in pieces. When I start the front, there will be a fair amount of stockinette, and then the yoke has a lace pattern on it. So it's going pretty fast. So I have focused a lot of my attention on this pattern this week. So that is what I am working on. Let me see, what else do I have here? Here is another canvas bag. This is a giant panda bag that my friend Gwen from graduate school at UCLA gave me. She went on a trip somewhere and brought me back this bag because she is really sweet like that and brings gifts back. So in fact, she still, even though I've been out of graduate school for gosh, almost 20 years, she still sends these really nice handmade cards around Christmas, so it's very awesome. On the needles, so these are my songbird mittens. So I have made a little bit of progress. So this is the songbird part. This is the front, so very pretty. The pattern's a little complicated, so it takes a fair amount of focus, and sometimes I don't feel like doing that. But I have to admit, the reason why I picked these up again is because I wanted to cast on some socks. And the needles that I use for sock knitting with fingering weight yarn are occupied by these mittens. So I had to get busy on that. And these needles are the Flexi Flips, the Addy Flexi Flips, and these are 2.75, so I use these for the Patent Croy yarn, and that is what I wanted to cast on, was Patent Croy socks. I do have the 2.5 millimeter needles that I use with regular fingering weight sock yarn, but I was just going to use Pat & Croy, so that is that. I can show you, this is a paid pattern, so this is Erica Huser design, and these are what the mittens look like. So, very pretty. It's a fun pattern. It's, you know, it's the chart looks complicated, but it's really not that bad. I've certainly worked on color work patterns that were hard for me to keep track of. I do have to watch it, and it's not that easy for me to memorize, except on the palm side. And each row is different, so, but once you realize what row you're on, then you can memorize it, if that makes sense. If you've done color work before, I think you know what I'm talking about. Let me see, what else? I'm still working on the Arnie and Carlos color work squares that were from the Spring Along. Sorry, there was something squealing outside. I wasn't sure what it was. Equipment. People are out working in their yards and on their farms around here, so that's some of that stuff. Where was I? Okay, yes, Arnie and Carlos color work squares. This was from their Spring Along. I'm making the squares, and I finished the one that was of Helmer, their dog. The squares are about yay big, and then you can crochet or sew them together to make a sweater or a blanket. I'm thinking of doing a sweater. And then I cast on another square. Can't remember what it is. I think it's kind of a flower pattern. So each of the squares is different, which I think is really cool. Excuse me. And I'm using a kind of a unifying color that I'm using is gray. So I think it's going to turn out really neat, and I look forward to figuring out how to you know, do the collar and attach sleeves and stuff like that. New cast on. So I started a gift knit this morning. In fact, I started it twice because I didn't like the needles that I was using the first time, so I ripped it out and started over, and it's going much better. So I'm not going to show you that. I'm just going to share with you that it's something I'm doing. I will share that I'm using an acrylic worsted weight yarn that I've had for quite a long time. So, but I'm not going to show you. So, just in case that person happens to be watching, I don't know. So, I also cast on a puzzle shawl for a knit along that started this morning. The knit along is hosted by Swedish designer and podcaster Sophia. Her podcast is called Camabornia, so I will put a link to that in the description box. She does speak English. She does her introduction in English, and she speaks most of it's in Swedish, and then you can do the subtitles. I have to admit that it was this podcast that inspired me to use my Duolingo language app and start learning Swedish, and that's been really fun. Also, just the connection. You know, my horses are named Odin and Bragi, which are Scandinavian Norse myths, mythological. I almost said creatures, but they're not creatures; they're gods. So my ethnicity, that's not the word I want, my ancestry is Scandinavian, so that's what that's all about. There's connections there. Anyway, on to the knit along. Camabornia, so she's calling it a puzzle knit along rather than a mystery knit along. I've never done a mystery knit along before, but I understand you get a piece of the pattern. You might know what it is, but you don't see the final version of it until maybe you're done. Is that how it works? I don't know. Someone can feel free to enlighten me in comments if you like. But this is a puzzle because she showed the finished product on her last episode, and she's releasing the pattern. So you buy the pattern, and then she's releasing pieces of it to the participants. So it's really fun. So that is here. So another, just bag, tote bag. So I think either my sister-in-law or my mom gave this to me. So yep, it's just perfect for this type of project. So this is it so far. So it's mostly in garter, and sorry, this is because of the color, it kind of blends into my shirt. So let me see. But anyway, maybe I put it against my face, you can see it better. But there's stitch markers in each one, so that's also kind of making things look a little obscured. But there's just not really that much to the first piece of the puzzle. So, but the yarn that I'm using, it takes 4 50-gram balls of yarn. So I got these two, which are a wool acrylic blend, and then I got this one. Isn't that lovely? I want to see if you can see how all the colors in this one. This is 100 grams. So I'm starting with the white. I was thinking of doing this kind of in this white, this lavender, and then this color for the top. But I may, and if you have an opinion, please give it to me. I may do white, this color, and then the final part of it, this 50 grams of it will be in this color again. So if you have an opinion, that would be awesome. This yarn is called Bo Peep. It's a luxury baby yarn by West Yorkshire Spinners. That's DK weight, that apparently is no longer being, it's being discontinued, which is unfortunate. So this is 52% Falkland, F-A-L-K, Lend wool, and 48% nylon. So that's what these two skeins are, is the West Yorkshire Spinners Bo Peep luxury baby yarn. And then this is, they didn't have the, I got these out of the sale bin, I admit, and they didn't have the other colors that I wanted, so I got this, this is a DK weight, and the label is unfortunately Arroyo is what it's called, and Talisman. So this is Malabrigo. Let's see if I can show that. There. So that's yeah, that's what I'm looking forward to knitting with this. This has some really neat like orange in it that I can't wait to see what that looks like. So that's the knit along. That's the other new cast on I did. So I've I knitted very monogamously with that raglan sweater. So now I'm knitting on all kinds of projects. So yeah, that's been really fun. So the stash enhancement, the stash enhancement was for this knit along. I ordered yarn. When I heard about the knit along, I signed up for it and I ordered yarn from Knit Picks. But the yarn won't arrive for another couple weeks, and the actual cast on was supposed to start this morning. So obviously I had to go to the local yarn store and to get new yarn to start, and then obviously I had to look in the sale bin. So I also got this sock yarn. So this was pretty inexpensive. So I got these 4 balls of sock yarn made by also West Yorkshire Spinners. So I got these 2. So this is, I think, called so this is 75% wool, 25% nylon, and 35% blue-faced Leicester, I think, is how you say that. I feel like I should know that. And this is marshmallow. So yeah, basic white. And this is Tequila Sunrise. So I'm looking forward to that. Kind of thinking of maybe doing a white color pop inspired by Crazy Sock Lady, and then maybe white heel flap on this. Not sure. We'll see. And this yarn, I could use my 1.5 millimeter, or 2.5 millimeter flexi flips to start this. But right now I have enough projects going on. And then here's the other two colors. So this is kind of, looks like it's showing up blue in the camera, but it's actually kind of more of a teal, a greeny teal. And then this is just a pink. A bright pink. So this is called Sarsaparilla, and this is called Blue Raspberry. So, you know, I would believe Blue Raspberry if it showed as blue as it does in the camera, but like I said, this is actually really kind of greenish. So, so yeah, I could do like a pop of color on the cuff, and then the body of the sock, and then the heel. So, or use the white. I could use, pink for a pop of color in the heel. So, I don't know, all kinds of options, and I will let you know what I come up with when I start these. Okay, so this is an open bag, so I have to put it back here. Sorry for the armpit shot. Put it back here so the cats, although they are, gotta show you the cats. So let me see if I can, let's see if I can, well here, I don't know if you can see them, but there's Herbert, say hi Herbert, and then here's Harley. Hi Harley. Sorry about that if that was really weird, but anyway, they don't seem too motivated to attack yarn. Okay, so that stash enhancement came from my local yarn store, Stilly River Yarn. I put a link in the show notes. Gardening. What's been going along with gardening? So I've harvested a lot of herbs and done a lot of watering. So the greens are kind of done. I was able to use some of the greens in salads, some baby kale and chard. But that's just just kind of waiting for things to ripen, like the tomatoes and the potatoes. The potatoes aren't quite done yet either. But I've got squash and artichoke. I got one artichoke bud, so just little bitty, just one. So I'm not sure if I'm gonna let that just flower and be a pollinator, or if I'm gonna actually harvest it and steam it and put it on top of a salad just for fun. So the tomatoes are still green. The squash is coming up, hasn't flowered yet. Cabbage is forming heads. Kohlrabi is forming its bulbs. Cucumbers, and then I've got flowers. So my dahlias are coming up. The teddy bear sunflowers are coming up, so I can't wait to see those. And the zinnias too. Now none of those have flowered yet because of the very late spring we've had. So hopefully I'll have a lot of great flowers in August. Cooking projects, since I was busy getting hay and putting it in the barn, we ate a lot of salads with some smoked steelhead that we had from leftover from last weekend, and the garden contributed to those meals with a few leafy carrot tops and some nasturtium blossoms and leaves. Nasturtium plants are entirely edible, so if you like a little peppery flavor in your salads, that's a good one. And then mint leaves and a little parsley, so very flavorful salads. I included some raspberries that were given to me by my coworker, who has a lot of raspberries growing, and we started canes this year, but they're obviously not producing any berries, so we'll have to wait till next year to get raspberries, but hopefully we have some green blueberries out in the garden, so hopefully we'll get some blueberries coming up. Okay, horses. So horses got less training attention this week because hay was harvested. It was haying. The last couple of weeks have been the farmers have been cutting their hay, their local hay, and baling it. So it was time to go get it. So I take my truck and my horse trailer out to the field and get it loaded. And so I made 2 trips. I've got 2 tons each time, so I have a total of 4 tons in the barn now. The bales are really nice, 40 to 45 pound bales, so it's something that I can manage. I unloaded and stacked 3.5 tons myself, maybe slightly less than 3.5 tons all by myself, and then my friend who lives up the road from me, who also gets hay from the same supplier, came and helped me with getting hay in the loft, because that's a bit tricky. It requires a ramp that I borrowed from another friend and this very long hay hook. The hay hook is 6.5 feet long, and my friend calls it Thor, the hay hook. So, and for good reason. So my friend was in the loft, and I pushed the bales from the back of my pickup up the ramp, and then she hooked it with Thor, the hay hook, and stacked it in the loft. So that was really awesome, and I think she's going to help me pick up the other ton this week too. So I help her take care of her horses when she's gone. She travels a fair bit, so I help feed and make sure her horses remain mostly healthy and happy while she's gone. So, but I did work with Odin a bit this morning. I worked with Bragi too. So Bragi they're from 2 different herd management areas, and Odin is like a smaller draft horse. He's built very stout. He has a thick coat of fur, and he's seems fairly resistant to the insects around here. Bragi, on the other hand, is from a different herd management area that has a lot of Appaloosa in it, and they tend to have thinner hair coats and kind of more skin problems. And Bragi gets sweet itch really badly from the biting insects around here, and he gets it all down his tummy and kind of, between his hind legs and under his tail, and it's just, you've got to feel for the poor guy. It's rough. So, I mean, I've been keeping up with fly spray and every sort of ointment that could possibly, and garlic supplements and all these things, but it's just, it's just been really hard. So I reintroduced him to the fly sheet that goes up around his neck and around his belly. It's a little bit big for him, but maybe it'll be a little bit cooler since it's getting hot. So, and hopefully that will help. So I, put fly spray on him and put that big fly sheet on him, which he doesn't mind at all. He actually seems to like it. So, so that was a pretty easy job to do. I thought it would take a lot longer to introduce him to it and put it over his back and stuff, because he's not gentled. I've never put a saddle on him or been on him anything. He's just 4. So putting blankets and stuff on him is relatively new to him, but he doesn't mind at all. So great. I feel pretty good about maybe introducing the saddle to him when it gets to be that time. Odin is now 10. He was born in 2012. And he's my riding horse. And I've been doing a lot of work with him with the trailer. So what I thought I would do, and in fact, my friend who was helping me unload hay yesterday came up with this idea. It's like, hey, just bring Odin up here and have him eat hay out of the trailer. I was like, oh, that's a great idea. Odin doesn't like the trailer. He doesn't like to go in. He's willing, but he doesn't like it. And I really want to make this easy for him. So having all the leftover hay in the bottom of the trailer was actually a perfect opportunity just to break it down even further for him, of just get in the trailer and let's go. You're gonna live. You're gonna be fine. Um, so I just brought him up here and I had him start eating hay that had fallen out of the back of the trailer. So I had the trailer door open and just led him up to it. And, even that makes him nervous. He'd rather look, off to the left and off to the right. But it's just like, no, we're gonna focus on the trailer and, but go ahead and eat. Go ahead and eat by the trailer. And, and so at first he didn't want to, but then he'd kind of nibble at it, and then I use positive reinforcement, so I use the clicking sound that goes like this, and then he gets a treat, and you could see kind of the light bulb turn on for him. It's like, oh, I get rewarded with a nice tasty snack for eating hay. Well, what a deal. So, but it took him a while because, he wants to try all these other things. Well, how about if I offer this other behavior that I know she kind of likes? Maybe I'll get a treat then. But no, he doesn't get a treat for offering other behaviors that I haven't asked for. He gets a treat for offering the behavior that I am asking for, that he was cued for. Here, do this thing. When he does it, he gets and then a treat. Both horses respond very well to that, but they try. They're like little kids. They're going to try anything and everything to get what they want without having to do the actual chore that you have asked them to do. So, so he got that. He understood that. So he would eat hay on the ground, and he would get a treat. And then he would eat hay out of the back of the trailer, and he would get a treat for that. So pretty soon, when he was doing that really consistently, I didn't give him a treat for eating hay on the ground. He only got a treat if he was eating hay out of the back of the trailer. So, I'm hoping that this helps him relax with the trailer, just kind of gets through that last bit of nervousness about the trailer. So we'll see. So I think we'll work on that this week too. I'm hoping to use the 15 minutes that I allow myself in the morning before work to work on that. Walk them up here and then give them a treat for eating out of the back of the trailer. So and hopefully then my trailer will be all cleaned out too. So the horsemanship part, so I was talking about, being a nomad in the horsemanship world, and this is continuing on with that. I left off last week about talking about a thoroughbred that I had adopted. And this was 2015, that he had retired from the racetrack, and having this horse really changed everything I ever knew about horsemanship. And then how I started working with an experienced horse trainer who was just starting her own business. So she had worked for another trainer and was going out on her own. This was the beginning of 2016. And, I learned the appropriate questions to ask every horse. And these are the questions that I now ask my horses every time I go out to see them. Is your attention on me? Are you willing to work with me? Can you back up? Can you walk with me? Can you stop when I ask? And then how are we going to feel safe around each other if they don't feel safe? Now these two Mustangs are a lot different than my thoroughbred. My thoroughbred was very high alert, high energy. And these Mustangs, I would just call them a lot more sensible. Odin was out on the range for 6 years before he was gathered. 6? I've had him for 4. Yeah, because he's 10. I keep getting stuck that he was 12, but he's 10. So yeah. So I think Odin has a really good sense of what is an actual threat and what is just something he needs to kind of keep an eye on, and then just still be able to focus on me. And Bragi has learned a lot from Odin, being around Odin, about what requires his attention. I mean, he's young, so he's not as secure and confident as Odin is in his environment. And then also me as the handler also plays a role in in their confidence and, my leadership with them. A funny story, last fall, I was working with them in the late, no, it wasn't late afternoon, it was around 5 p.m. or so. We were all three of us were in the round pen, and I saw this mountain lion just trot across our pasture, probably 50 yards from us. The horses didn't do anything. Their attention was completely on me, which, rattled the bejeebers out of me. I mean, thankfully, the mountain lion just was on this straight course going from one side of the pasture to, one section of woods on the south side of the pasture to the section of woods on the north side of the pasture. And so it didn't linger, it didn't look. In fact, it seemed like it just wanted to not be noticed. So that tells me a couple things. One, that the horses probably knew that mountain lion was around, and it just wasn't a threat to them. The horses Odin probably weighs close to 1,300 pounds, and Bragi is getting to be quite a large horse in his own right. So with the two horses together, a mountain lion wouldn't have much of a chance. That's not to say things don't happen, because they do. I mean, mountain lions hunt elk and bring them down. So, but, they are wild animals, and there's just not much I can do about it, but hope that the boys, make good choices about defending themselves if it ever comes to that. So anyway, back to Beej, my horsemanship journey, and I won't talk very long about this because this is getting to be long. So I started working with this trainer and started at being able to ask these basic six questions. How are we going to feel safe around each other is kind of the basic one. If Beej was feeling uncomfortable and unsafe, and we need to do something, walk from point A to point B, maybe we need to go home, maybe we need to, maybe I need to treat a wound or something, how are we going to feel safe around each other? And a lot of this has to do with relationship building. And I just, when I was growing up in horsemanship, I really took that relationship with horses for granted. I probably assumed incorrectly that horses were a lot like dogs and would just, just be Velcro to you. Or other domestic pets, your cats. But they're not. There's really, if you think about it, dogs and cats are predator animals like we are. So our body language in a lot of ways is the same, and it's something that we understand a lot. Horses are prey animals. They are eaten by predators, and their perception and the way that they have evolved over the last 50 million years, their perception of us and how their bodies are shaped and their senses have evolved to contribute to their success as creatures. So developing that trust between a predator human whose eyes face forward, like all predators do, versus a horse who's a prey animal whose eyes are kind of like bunnies. They're on either side of their head so that they have this view. And their ears, they're very sensory, their nostrils, and their lips. Their lips are like fingers. So they have basically prehensile lips. So everything about them is aware that we are predators, but we gain their trust by not acting like predators. So maybe we avert our eyes. We don't direct our energy right at them. And we do other things, a lot of other things. So that's how I spent my time with Beej, was really trying to develop that trust, so that if we had to do anything, or I wanted to ride him, then we would have that relationship. And also keep in mind, riding a horse is very predatory behavior. So speaking of mountain lions, that's how mountain lions attack horses. You know, they might jump on their backs. Well, that's what we do as riders. We ride their backs, on their backs. So that horses allow this is truly remarkable. And as I've gotten older, I appreciate that much more. And Beej was very instrumental in me understanding the role of the relationship. I remember when my trainer was telling me that it would take a year or two, when I first started working with her, it would take a year or two to really develop that trust with a horse. I was like, I was stunned, and I could not believe it. I mean, that had never, I've always had horses where you just get on and you go. Well, that's not the case with this retired racehorse who had a lot of issues, and I will talk about that in upcoming episodes, because we are getting to be after 40 minutes. So I'm just going to do the closing bits right now. So at the end of this video, I'll post, I'll add a couple photos from this week, probably of hay. And I always want to talk about what inspired me this week, what YouTube channels I've been watching. So Knit All the Yarn, that's one of my favorites. Lisa from Michigan does this podcast. I put a link in the description box, and she records weekly. She was my inspiration for even starting this, because her podcast is very straightforward. It's not highly produced, and I thought, well, gosh, if she can do it, I can do it too. And by golly, that's the way it turned out. And then the Crazy Sock Lady, because of Lisa, I started watching the Crazy Sock Lady and got some sock inspiration. Wool Gathering. This is a Canadian podcast that was discontinued probably 5 years ago. I really enjoy it. I really enjoyed both Natasha and Meredith on there. They were from the eastern part of Canada. So anyway, I recommend checking it out, even though they don't have any new episodes. Their old episodes are very much worth watching. Horsemanship-wise, the Tao of Horsemanship. I've been watching. She has a very gentle approach to her horses, and she has worked with rescue horses and horses that needed rehabilitation. So I appreciate her very kind and open-hearted way of working with horses, and she's just given me some ideas for some little exercises that I can do with my boys. Gardening, GrowVeg podcast. So this, have this book on my shelf here that I ordered, but this is the host. And I have found lots of great gardening ideas from him. Probably didn't really need this book, but I like having it. So that's that was my inspiration for the week. Where I can be found on Facebook, I am the Equestrian Nomad. On Instagram, which I do post a lot there, CMEQNOMAD, so CM Eknomad. Ravelry, I'm Corrinala. I don't really keep my project pages up, so I'm not even sure why I'm mentioning that, but maybe I'll be inspired to do that sometime over the winter. My blog is equestriannomad.net. I confess that since I've been podcasting, my blog has been neglected, although I do have started blogging in 2003. So if you're interested in all the back entries, go for it. And then my email is theequestriannomad, spelled out, @gmail.com. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time. Happy knitting and happy horsemanship.